Hey, this is Phil Ratcliffe with Rebel Financial, and we are coming to you live from our conference room in good old Gahanna, Ohio. And today we've got Jordan Roth with us from Merge Consulting, and we're going to talk about web development and what it can do for your business. If you've got a small business, you work for a business in the marketing department, you just want to help your business even if you don't work in that area of it. It's fascinating to me, especially I think anybody that's like younger than 40 that grew up in the web, time frame. Like, we surf the web all the time. We go to places, and I think sometimes we think things are cool, but then we take it for granted. So tell us a little bit about, what is web development?
Yeah, so web development, the first thing I usually point out is the difference between web development and web design. So I am typically working with somebody who's doing the design portion, which is really the look of a website. That's the biggest part of that. And so then I'm turning something that's beautiful into something that functions as a website and does what it's supposed to do.
Absolutely. I would think that most people, when they think about hiring somebody for their website, mainly think about design, right?
Yeah, and there is a lot of crossover between design and development, but my favorite thing to do is to partner with somebody who really specializes in the design portion so that I can focus on my specialty, which is development.
Sure. I would have to say the more that I've gotten into our website and learning throughout the time, not to degrade anything on the design, obviously it's super important, and if something doesn't look aesthetically pleasing and doesn't, per se load fast or whatever, then you're gone. But the development seems to me a lot more important, and it's totally interesting, in terms of when somebody goes to your website, why do some people scroll down and look at stuff and click on something, and why do some people just hit the back button,
Yeah, well, it's really a whole, everything kind of works together. So the beautiful design, the good user experience works together. It can be as beautiful as you can imagine, but if it doesn't work right, you've lost that user.
Sure.
They're going to go elsewhere. Same thing goes for a website that works perfectly and is just initially ugly or doesn't prompt a user to take the kind of action that the business wants them to take. They're probably going to be gone, and they're going to be on the competitor's website that combines both the functionality and the aesthetics.
So we were talking before we started this, and you told me about how many businesses were not on the web, and it really surprised me. I'm like, how can anybody not be on the web? And then beyond that, the old 90s stodgy of just thinking that you're making a billboard,
Yeah.
So tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the statistics do vary, as you can imagine, but most statistics that come out say small businesses, only 50 to 60% of them have a functioning website.
That's a lot.
But that actually tells me two things. So you've got 50 to 60% of small businesses. That's a lot of small businesses.
Yeah.
So that means that the landscape on the web is different than it was 10 years ago. It's no longer good enough to just have a website out there that's just a billboard that you put up. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
So you have to have a good looking website that functions properly and really offers your customers, your clients, your potential customers and clients what they want to find. The other thing that tells me is that it's amazing, 40 to 50% of small businesses do not have a website.
Yeah.
What I find is there are basically two reasons that they say they don't need a website, or that they have chosen not to have a website. First one is they don't think their industry needs a web presence. The second one is that they think it costs too much. What both of those say to me is there's a lack of education. Small business owners aren't aware of, in many cases, how inexpensive it can be to get started on the web.
Yeah.
They also are blind to what the web could do for their business. And
Sure.
You'd have a hard time finding an industry that couldn't be impacted by a web presence.
No, absolutely. I mean, just what you were saying earlier, when the yellow pages people come by to try to give me a book, it's it makes me feel guilty because I'm we're killing trees, and this is just going to sit in a drawer. I may use it to start my little charcoal fire thing outside, cook something or what. So, but man, if you're going to find something, you're going to ask Siri, or you're going to look it up on Google or what so. And so, like, I think absolutely, you in today's day and age, you have to have a website. And if you run a business that's like, even if you run a nonprofit that's not for money, you need people to be able to find you when they're looking for things. And so I think another thing that we were talking about as well was kind of the expectations of visitors or potential customers. You know, people have started to move beyond just looking people up, and they expect us to give them something first. And I think that's probably more where you come in. Would you agree?
Yeah. So I work with a lot of small businesses that I really help them up front decide how are we going to approach these potential clients in many cases. When somebody shows up on our website, even when somebody just searches our name on Google, what are we going to offer them? And what is our ultimate goal with them? You can't just throw up some information and think it's going to work for you. If you want your phone to ring, for instance, certain businesses, they live or die by phone calls coming in.
Absolutely.
Then we've got to do everything we can to make sure that people are guided into making that phone call. In other cases, with certain businesses, it could be a free download that gets them started with some information. And if that's part of your sales process, and a very important part, let's guide your visitors to take that action first.
Absolutely. So it's kind of like a trade. Here's some free information, and hopefully it's worthwhile. You're not just putting something out there that's like a gimmick. And then they trade you. Here's my name and email and phone number for something valuable that you gave to me first. Maybe I'll do business with you later.
And the key there is the value portion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of junk out there on the internet, as you know. I mean, you can put your email in and download just about anything you can think of for free.
Yeah.
A lot of it is junk. So what businesses need to do is provide value. And sometimes it seems counterintuitive. I'm going to give away some value up front. But I think everybody has experienced in some way where you've been given something for free up front, and you realize, you find out that this company has the expertise you're looking for.
Absolutely.
And you end up doing business with them based on maybe something that they gave you for free that did have actual value, and looking back, you would have paid for.
That's interesting because, you know, I personally, you know, love those types of things. For somebody to prove to me the value that they say, and then to be transparent in the pricing so that I can say, all right, here's what I'm going to pay if I want to hire you. And then I get to see how good it is, whether it's a product or a service or whatever. And sometimes it's testimonials, sometimes it's videos. I think more and more, I mean, I think we're seeing that with like Facebook continuing to rise, and it's because they've super embraced videos. I mean, how much are you seeing, you know, a lot of your clientele embrace like media, you know?
Yeah, because some of that is new for a lot of people, it can be difficult to get people into that realm, but there's no question right now what the statistics show, how effective that is. And so when you can get people into video, it's huge. But the main thing is, you mentioned all these different areas, the testimonials, the videos, it's got to be a combo of all of those.
How it works together.
And some of it is a conscious thing that a user is seeing and reacting to, and some of it is subconscious.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on a website where they've got a list of companies that this particular company has worked with.
Yeah, like on yours. Down here, right? There you go.
You see some of the names, you say, oh, that's a good company. Without even consciously thinking it, subconsciously, it's telling you, like, these guys are good, this is somebody I can trust, and somebody I might want to work with.
Yeah, and just like people, you all are watching our video right now, probably on Facebook, I would imagine. And a lot of times it's interesting because we go on to Facebook to see what our friends or family are doing, and then we get caught up in something like, oh, this could be useful to my business, or I know that guy, or whatever the case is. Then you watch it, and if it's valuable content, you know, so like a lot of people are like, well, you do personal financial planning. Why are you doing web development? So, well, a decent amount of our clients are business owners, want to start business, involved in the website. So again, I think it's about that mentality of giving before taking, and it's like just trying to help other people, putting out good content that makes people run better businesses or live better lives or whatever the case, because if it's not, if it's selfish-ended, I think people see that and people don't share it. And I think that is really, when you see these good tie-ins of like social media and web together, that's really what it is. It's people voting to say, you're good, I want other people to see, you know, because it's valuable, or they just go past you, right? You know? So I think one thing that I was intrigued by, you know, is I love when people come in here and tell us stories, and you had a good story that you wanted to share with, you know, that was like an example of like how you helped, you know, one of your clients.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that I find a lot in working with small businesses is that I can initially sit down and there is a lot of what I refer to as low-hanging fruit when I look at their web presence. One of the first things I do what everybody else does. I hop on Google, type in the name of the business. Let's see what happens. And I have had so many stories of businesses that when I do that search, I can see right away there are some things they're missing. And this is not complicated stuff, but it's also not something that's just on the radar of, you know, your average small business owner that's got their head in their own business. So what I have done, and I just saw this recently with a business, I made sure that I did nothing else for them other than make sure that what comes up on Google when somebody types in their business name is all accurate
and relevant.
All relevant. Things that were missing, we got taken care of. This is not complicated stuff. This isn't even stuff that technically costs money other than paying somebody to do it, or you can even do this kind of stuff yourself, but just making sure you're listed in all the business directories, making sure you have good images, good description of your business, trying to get yourself your business some reviews. Reviews are huge online. When you do that Google search, you scan the page and you see those stars.
Unlike the local listings.
Whether somebody actually looks or not at, oh, how many reviews are there? Let me read them. You see those stars, and it's this trigger that, oh, this is something good. Now, if you have 1 star, that kind of sends the opposite message. But so really, I have seen, and this business I'm referring to, I really saw them go from being hard to find, even people who had maybe heard the business name and were looking for them specifically.
Like specifically looking for their company name, and they weren't even
for their company name. And you know, they're listed down there. They're even somewhere on the first page on this little listing, but they don't stand out
because that's
at
step
all.
1. Step 1 is to get listed for your own company name. Step 2 is to get listed for the things that people search about when they want to hire someone like you. And that's harder because there's a lot more competition.
It is. But you can imagine even just getting this business to show up when somebody searches their company name, show up with a nice picture, their description, get them listed on Google Maps.
It's professional.
It really caused their phone to ring. They were looking for more calls that way directly to them, and they started seeing more inquiries every month.
So how much of what you do would be considered like search engine optimization? So SEO, a lot of us may have heard that keyword but don't know exactly what it means.
Yeah, so I like to tell clients that primarily what I do is the basics of SEO. Some of the stuff is really straightforward. It's some of the stuff that I just mentioned to you, making sure you're listed properly on all the different directories, making sure your website is set up correctly. Basically, without digging into the month-to-month really specialty that SEO is. I see a lot of improvement in businesses' websites and web presence from simply following the rules that Google has laid out. And I say Google specifically because they're so dominant in the search engine world.
Absolutely.
That's really where most of the focus goes. But following their rules alone, I think is 80+% of.
And then they change them every once in a while
they
too.
They do. Yeah, and you know, most people find as long as they're not trying to do something, game the system and do something that's maybe on the edge of whether it's okay or not, don't see major issues with the changes that they make. Because ultimately,
unless their site's not mobile, right? That was the big thing that happened.
That was big. Just been about a couple years now, I think. And you can imagine I got lots of frantic calls from people with older websites.
They didn't even know, right?
Well, they see in the news, Google's no longer going to list you on mobile if your website isn't mobile friendly. So that one was actually a big one that did impact a lot of people.
So if you just got a basic website, or a basic business, let's say, because you said there's a lot of misinformation out there about pricing or what so, and you were going to help them with the basics of just making sure all their listing was right, help them get up to where they're getting more search traffic, and when it comes to them, hopefully that it converts better. I mean, I'm sure there'd be a really high ROI on that, but what would you think, an average price range would be, just so people could have it kind of in their minds?
Yeah. Some of that is going to be based on what I see initially and how
much work it is.
Maybe how bad the problem is that exists currently, as you can imagine. But a lot of times for $500, you can have things up and running in that direction. Now that that doesn't have anything to do with any kind of new website or anything like that. It's simply dealing with the overall web presence and organized and making tweaks, making sure the information out there is good information.
Okay. Well, we're looking at Jordan's website right now. His company is Merge Consulting, and he's actually using one of the new URLs. It's called merge.consulting if you want to visit his website and take a look. The way I know Jordan is he's actually helped us with a couple problems. One of the most visible is if you go to our website, rebelfinancial.com, and actually we're going to re-record this because we found a way to get higher resolution. But one of the hard things about integrating that into there to our virtual tour, and this is a 360-degree video to where you could take a tour of our office, was that there's actually, it's hard to tell, but there's like 3 different parts of our website there. There's the main part of the website, there's a slider thing which the pictures go over, and then we had to figure out a way to embed this little picture link in front of it, and then it's also responsive so that it gets bigger or smaller depending on how big the window is, and if you look at it on mobile, then it stacks it instead of being on top, and that's, just having that little star there, that doesn't sound complicated, but it was hard. And so Ryan Zapirian, the guy that's back there making the show work right now, he does a lot of our stuff for us, but whenever we hit something complicated, then Jordan will help us. I think he's made our website probably like about 2 seconds faster. You're like, oh, 2 seconds. 2 seconds matters. That's the difference between somebody impatient going back, I'll go somewhere else, or stay in there. And then recently we've been talking about making a cool new app to where people can input some information. We take some free information from the government and make them a nice report so that we can provide them something of value to where they can give us their contact information and maybe we can do business together. But, I think these are all important things that we need people like you, because hopefully if you're watching this and you're intrigued by it, you have a good business. You're probably good at what you do. You just need other people to know that. And a lot of times, they don't know that they need you, so you may need their contact information for something that you get so that you can explain to them what you could do for them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have 3 times more because I did this with you, or this solves this problem that's been horrible for me because I found you now, So you want to give everybody like how they can get in contact with you besides just the website that I gave them real fast?
Yeah. Merge.consulting is my website. That's probably the best way. You can contact me there. My email address is jordan@merge.consulting.
No .com, right?
Don't add the .com on the end. It's
vanity URLs. That's what they're called.
It's a relatively new thing, but it can just be jordan@merge.consulting.
Cool.
That's my website, though, is probably the best way to get into contact.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and sharing with everybody. We work very closely. We know our websites are very important as a company. We just got 2 new clients in the past week and a half straight that way. And so I think it's one of the best investments that you can make in your business. Now, it's not always a short-term thing. It may take you a year, 2 or 3, but it's definitely worthwhile. So thank you so much for joining us for another live stream. We'll be on again next week, 11 a.m. Please join in. If you have questions, post them below. Either Jordan and I will try to answer as fast as we can. Again, we're getting close. We're getting close to where we're getting the viewership to where we're going to do the live questions from Twitter and Facebook, which means we may have to cut down the content a little bit, but that'll be fun. So have a super finish to the week, and thanks so much for joining in to us.